The Psychology is literally by far the worst financial book, actually the worst book that I have ever read. And literally, I read a lot of books, okay? This book was so bad that I decided to make a video on it. I never make videos on books. Never, ever, ever. Why? Because they would be a boring video and nobody will watch it. But The Psychology of Money seems to be such a what's the word? Popular. It's such a popular book, and so many people are talking about it. So many people are buying it, but it's so bad. Literally, it has negative advice, in my opinion. Advice that's actually makes you worse off than you would be before you read the book. And I've actually written down all the main things that I want to talk about because they're just so stupid. There's literally 8 main segments that I want to talk about here. 8 main segments because the book was so bad. And by the way, like literally, I'll just pan over to my books here, and that is, well, that's not even all my books. I don't keep all my books there, and also I have a Kindle. So like literally, guys, I read a lot of books. This book was the worst. I say that this book was full of bad advice, and that's not necessarily 100% true, right? There's some bad advice and there's some neutral advice. And the neutral advice I consider to be bad advice because to me, it's like so obvious that you shouldn't even be writing it down in a book. It's just very stupid, bad advice that should be obvious to anyone. I don't think people are really that dumb that they need to read this book in order to understand these things. Maybe they are, I really don't think so. But I'm gonna go over all the neutral points and all of the negative points that is actually bad advice. Part of this book, it gives you some psychology on the stock market and panic selling, and it also talks about how some of it is gambling, and it's not necessarily true. Some people, they gamble on the stock market. This is true because if you just blindly put your money into an ETF or a bond or a stock or an investment fund or something like that, and you literally know absolutely nothing about what you're buying into, you don't know anything about the company, you just heard somebody say it was good, or you don't know anything about the fund, it was just advertised to you. Yeah, that's gambling because you literally know nothing about it. You don't actually know if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down. Now, I've read a lot of financial books, and there's definitely sure ways that you can actually put in a lot of research and investigation into what you're buying into to figure out if it's going to go up or down. Now, this isn't 100% true, and obviously when you buy into the stock market, you have to have a plan. You have to say, okay, well, if this stock goes below this price, I'm going to put in my sell order. And if it goes up to this price, I'm going to put in my sell order. That's how you do things. Obviously, with researching the company and having a lot of information telling you that it's going to go up, going through the numbers and different stuff like that. But this book just basically says, it's like the Wolf of Wall Street mentality. Nobody knows if a stock's going to go up or down, whether you're Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett. And that is true, but to a certain extent, you can obviously do a little bit of research. And I just think it's stupid because it's kind of pushing that you shouldn't be putting any of your money into the stock market, and it's kind of scaring people away from the stock market, which I don't really think is a good thing because it's not gambling, okay? If you actually look into it, you can gamble on the stock market, don't get me wrong. If you do absolutely no research and you just put your money in and just hope it goes up, 100% that's gambling. It also talks about panic selling, okay? It's like the famous quote by Warren Buffett. Oh, what do you do in a recession? You panic sell all your shit. Oh, fuck. No, Warren Buffett did not say that, although he could have said that. I don't think he said that, though. And this is what it warns you against, is panic selling all your stuff in a recession. Yeah, you probably shouldn't panic sell in a recession. I don't know if they need to put that into a book. My next point is the book talks about living below your means and not overextending yourself, not spending more money than you make. This also goes into another point, which is a lot of people do live paycheck to paycheck. And while this is true and it's kind of a dumb thing to do, it's also kind of obvious. Like, you shouldn't be overextending yourself. You shouldn't be putting yourself into debt. You shouldn't be spending money that you don't have. And to me, I really don't think that they should be putting it in a book as like the main thing. think it should just be kind of, a paragraph maybe explaining it and then going into what you're going to do with the money. There's a lot of stuff in this book that talks about not overextending yourself and, you should put your money into investments and stuff like that. But it never actually talks about where to put your money. And that's why I think it's such a stupid book, is because it just says, don't spend your money, invest it. That is such stupid advice. I mean, you have to be with me on that. That is such stupid and blatantly obvious advice. It's like the stock market advice: buy low, sell high. And it even talks about that in the book. Yeah, that's stupid advice because it's so obvious. Obviously, I want to buy low and sell high to make money, but that shouldn't be advice. It's just very dumb. I don't know. I feel like it also kind of personally is tone deaf to somebody who might be buying this book. They obviously want to know more about money, how to become more wealthy, and telling themselves not to live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe the person reading this doesn't even have the option or the choice. Like, they have to buy food, they have to pay different bills and stuff. So I really don't think that it's good advice. I think it's stupid advice, because but also, there is that thing where, and I read this in Rich Dad Poor Dad, it actually said it much better than this book, but there's this thing that where people make more money, they spend more money. They make more money, they spend more money, and they keep living paycheck to paycheck, and they're never able to get ahead. Even some people making 6-7 figures a year, they might be making $1 million a year, but then they're spending $1 million a year, or even spending more than $1 million a year, and literally they are barely getting by, and they're really stressed out financially, and it's terrible for them. And it's this very interesting thing that a lot of people do. The more money they make, the more money they spend. They don't put it into investments, and they don't put it into assets versus liabilities. This is another thing that the book didn't talk about. How are you gonna have a financial book on basic ideas? Okay, there's nothing advanced in this book, and you're not even gonna talk about assets and liabilities. It's just insane to me. An asset is something that gives you money, like a business. Let's say you buy a business, or you buy a property and you rent it out to people. 2 apartments, they pay you $2,500 a month. That's a asset, okay? It's bringing you money. Versus a liability, which is taking money away from you, like a car. You just bought a car, you got a loan, now you're paying money out of your bank account every month. This is another stupid point that the book didn't talk about. It just kind of says debt is bad. Well, no, debt is not bad. Debt is 100% not necessarily bad, because you can put yourself into good debt. If you put yourself into debt to buy an asset that brings you money in, and the money that the asset is making you is more than the money you're paying towards the debt to pay down the debt, then you're literally getting free money from that. Let's say hypothetically, something you want to buy is guaranteed to give you 7% interest back. You want to take out a loan, the loan is 3% interest. That means you're getting 4% interest. It's literally positive money, and it doesn't talk about it in the book, and I think that is just so stupid. It also talks about Bill Gates and how he's very wealthy because he was very lucky. Yes, he was lucky, but when he was building Microsoft, he was putting in 12 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week, week over week, month over month. It was very common for him to be doing that. So to say he's lucky just seems ridiculous to me. Like, it seems so insanely ridiculous. Yes, he was lucky. Don't get me wrong. He was lucky to go to high school with a computer. I know about Bill Gates. He was lucky to be born in America and in that specific town, the specific school. He was very lucky to be interested into computers, just like how Warren Buffett was very lucky to be interested in investing at such a young age. But to say that it's only luck and that hard work doesn't really have any play in this equation of success seems just so insanely ridiculous to me, like beyond insane. And especially using Bill Gates as an example, because I know a little bit about Bill Gates and how insanely hard he worked. I can't stand it when people use Bill Gates as an example for, oh, this guy was just lucky. Because, yeah, he was interested in computers. Was that the only reason he's successful? Absolutely not. It's ridiculous to say that that is the only factor. And of course, luck does play a factor, but you make your own luck. And if that guy did not work as hard as he did, he would absolutely not be who he is. Now, 2 more things that it's saying is you can work a job you hate for 80 hours a week. It doesn't make sense just to be able to afford things like a cool house and a cool car. That's true, but it's also obvious to me. At least, these things might not be as obvious to other people because they don't read so many financial books. It's just dumb advice. Yeah, you can definitely work less and work a different job and live below your means and have less and have more time, not doing things that you hate all the time just to be able to afford things that don't really matter that much. But then there's also the case where, yeah, you should probably try to work as hard as you can, and then instead of spending all your money on liabilities, put them towards assets and accumulate the wealth. And then after a little while, you don't have to work so hard and you can still have those things and enjoy them. There's this whole segment of the book that's just unbelievably stupid and unbelievably obvious. It's saying know when enough is enough. I'm kind of more under the John D. Rockefeller mentality. I can't remember the quote. It was like, how many dollars does a man need to be happy? Just one more. I love that quote. In the book, it's saying you don't need to risk everything just to have a little bit more money, because after a certain point, it doesn't matter anymore. And yes, that's true, but also you can continue to build what you have without risking everything. Just because you made $1 billion doesn't mean you go to the casino and put it all on black. It's basically what the book is saying. You can continue to build your company without gambling everything, without creating a Ponzi scheme, without doing insider trading like the book is talking about. You don't have to risk everything to become more wealthy, but you can still become more wealthy and still try to grow your wealth. There is no limit to say, okay, you've reached this amount here. Now you have to be doing illegal, shady stuff and risking and gambling everything you have. No. And it also says you shouldn't be gambling everything you have. Like, are we for real? Are we for real? You really need to say that in a book. Don't absolutely sacrifice everything. Don't bet the house. Why not just make a book on not going to the casino and gambling all your money? I mean, it's the same thing. It's a ridiculous point to make. And I guess some people are like that, but I just feel like that's not really something you need to write down in a book because it's so ridiculous. Near the end of the book, there was this guy. Basically, he worked in a parking garage as a parking supervisor or something. I don't really care if that was his exact position. It might have been something else. Something like parking lot security guard or something. And he had minimum wage. I can't remember if it was exactly minimum wage, but basically, he barely had any money at all. And by the time he died, I don't know if it was like in his 50s, which is pretty young, but by the time he died, maybe he was like 70 or something. Doesn't really matter. He had $5 million saved up and invested. And the book was talking about, oh my gosh, how did this guy have $5 million saved up and invested over his life? And now that he's dead, $5 million that he's able to give back to his family. And by the way, he almost gave all of it to charity, which is nice, but why aren't you going to give that to your family after working your whole life? Crazy mindset. But he had $5 million when he died, and it was explaining how that was possible because he barely spent any of his money and he always put it towards investments, and over 50 years compounding interest, it accumulated to more and more and more money. Why do I think that this is stupid? Why do I think that this is terrible advice? He's dead. How is he gonna spend the money or enjoy the money if he's dead? Even if he wasn't dead, this guy's old. Who cares? Who wants to have $5 million in their bank account when they're dead? Not me. I don't want to have $5 million in my bank account and be dead. If somebody said, oh, you can have $5 million in your bank account right now, but the catch is you're dead, I would say, actually, no thanks. I'm good. Or they said, you could have $5 million in your bank account, but you're 80 years old. I would say, nah, I'd probably rather be 23 with no money, actually. And this is such common financial advice, is save your money, invest all your money, live completely below your means, live like a bum your entire life, don't enjoy anything, and by the time you're 80, you're gonna be a millionaire. Nobody cares. $1 million over your entire life, $2 million over your entire life, $3 million over your entire life. It's not impressive. Going 70, 80, 90 years and making $3 million and having $3 million saved up when you didn't spend money on anything is not impressive. You're not wealthy. You're nothing, okay? That's like a basic person could do that, and nobody cares because you're either really old and you can't enjoy the money. Let's be real. You cannot enjoy the money, or you're dead. That is not good advice. That is terrible advice. And it actually, some people are living like this their whole life. Do I want to work as a security guard in a parking garage my whole life, making almost no money, and then the money I do make, I spend almost none of it, and then by the time I'm 80, I have $5 million in my bank account and I'm dead? I think I'm gonna pass on that. I think it's stupid. I'm not saying you should spend more money than you make. I'm not saying that you should live paycheck to paycheck on purpose just to enjoy your money. You know, I'm saying there's a fine line in between. And it seems like people are either spending all their money like a complete idiot, going into debt, or they're spending none of their money and they're enjoying none of their life. And by the time they're 80, they're dead and they have $5 million. Whoop-de can do. What I'm saying is there's a place in the middle that you can live where you spend a certain amount of your income and you save a certain amount of your income. And not only that, but you put it towards assets. You put as much money towards assets as you can. This is what it talks about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The poor people, they immediately get their money, they put it towards luxuries, boom, it's gone. Rich people get their money, put it towards an asset, and then when the asset makes the money, they get that money either reinvested into the asset or they put it towards liabilities. And that's how they become rich. Now, the final point is probably the point that I hate the most about this book. That is, it's basically saying that you can't be rich. There's no rich people. That guy in the Ferrari, he's struggling financially. The guy in the Lamborghini, he's struggling financially. And although this might be the case with some people, there's also people out there who have these cars and it's nothing to them. They could buy 50 of them. They could buy 60 of them. They can buy a Bugatti. They could buy a massive house. Some people are just rich. Some people have a lot of money. I don't know why that's so hard to comprehend. And to some people, they buy a car like this and it's nothing to them. They aren't stretching themselves out on a financial limb. And that is possible. It's possible to become wealthy. It seems like that's something that this book kind of reinforces, that it's not possible to become wealthy, and that some people were just given an up in life and some people started with more in life. That's kind of the premise of near the end of this book. You should be happy with what you have and you can't have more. You can't overextend yourself financially to get more, because some people are just luckier than you. They were born with more, and even the people who have Ferraris and stuff are stretching themselves financially, which is not necessarily the case. There's 3,323 billionaires in the world. If I used a single billionaire, it would be an extreme example, but let's just say we take Elon Musk, whose net worth is $428.4 billion. Let's just say 400 billion. Okay, this is like the most extreme example, but it kind of gets the point down. Basically, if you took away like $30 billion from Elon Musk, he could still buy 1.3,333,033 Lamborghinis. So to say that, oh, that guy in the Lamborghini, he's just stretching himself financially. That guy in the Ferrari, he's just stretching himself financially. He's just stupid. And like I said, I mean, there's 3,323 billionaires in the world. Let's do some math on that. There's over 3,000 people who could buy 3,333 Lamborghinis. And you want to say that these people are stretching themselves financially for that? And you don't even need to be a billionaire, okay? You could have $10 million and not be stretching yourself financially. You could have 100 million. Like, there's a lot of people who have a lot of money. And like I said, there's over 3,000 billionaires. How many decamillionaires do you think? How many people have over $100 million? A lot of people. And it's possible. It's possible to start a successful company, work hard, but it doesn't really give you the blueprint for this. It just kind of says it's not possible. That's like the most fundamental part as to why I think this is stupid, is it really doubles down on the point of it's not possible to become rich. It kind of says that near the end of the book, and that some people are just luckier and they start off with more, they overextend themselves financially, which is not true. Read a different book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where it kind of explains how to become wealthy, written by a billionaire, the wealthiest guy in Hawaii. It explains, how to leverage debt, how to make money, okay, how to actually become wealthy. You want to know that? Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Don't read The Psychology of Money. It's a stupid book. If you like this, please make sure to smash that subscribe button. I think I'm going to do more financial videos just because it's becoming more interesting to me. I love money. It's very interesting. If you guys think that this is a stupid take or you agree with it, leave a comment and maybe we can have a little chit chat in the comments and debate. Okay, see you, bye.